I'm telling you, when Chuck Liddell was in his prime, he was one of the most terrifying fucking human beings that's ever walked the face of the earth.
He set up a long-awaited title shot with Tito Ortiz.
Fantastic performance. You've been a top contender in the light heavyweight division for a long time. Looking for a title shot now.
Yeah, definitely.
Tito's your good friend. I know you guys are training partners. Is that going to affect you when you guys fight?
Of course, I'll be honest, I said it did, but it's part of the game. We're friends. Until then, fight time, it's all business.
Well, looks like being hammer next. How do you step in and fight a good friend?
Well, we stopped after he fought Bustamante. We stopped training with each other because we knew once in a while we're going to have to get here one time or another. It's going to be hard, man. All you guys at home, it's going to be a huge fight. Me and Chuck Liddell.
But Quincy Tito Ortiz. And when they meet, it will be something special. Contract negotiations, we want to make sure it stay in place.
There was just one problem. The reigning champion Tito Ortiz refused to fight him.
Chuck Liddell is next in line. What's going to happen?
I don't know. I'm not really thinking about that right now. Me and Chuck, I guess we got to sit back and look at it. I guess we got to renegotiate things because me and Chuck, I mean, our friendship is not worth the money we're getting paid, if you ask me.
After Tito Ortiz defeated Ken Shamrock, he entered a contract dispute with the UFC that put his expected title defense against Liddell on hold.
After the fight, after he beats Ken, he's like, oh, we can't, I don't know if we're going to fight. We're going to big fight pride, we want money. Like, so all of a sudden, he didn't want to fight anymore.
And the bad blood between them started when Tito refused to fight Chuck.
The way it started was Scott Adams came down and he said, "Should I just bring Chuck down?" And so that's how it started. I came down and started training with him and doing stuff. And really, I was a sparring partner for the most part.
Came down to my house, stayed on my couch. You know, I've been up to San Luis Obispo training with him.
He made some of your great friends. I mean, he always slept on my couch. I slept on your couch because you wouldn't pay for a hotel room.
Chuck was in Tito's head big time because every time they trained together, Tito would get beat up. I'm talking, drop him on the ground and Tito refusing to get back up. Chuck would want to hook up and spar or whatever, and Tito would never want to spar.
Well, when we trained together, I took him down way more than he took. But that's why he didn't want to fight me because he couldn't out wrestle. And then when we're striking, I used to drop with body shots. And I never got me.
He never got you. Absolutely, positively would not fight Chuck because he knew he couldn't beat Chuck. That's the truth. If Tito felt he could beat Chuck, he'd have fought him in a second. You didn't want to lose and you didn't want to give up your title. Tito can talk about money or whatever else he wants to talk about. It's a fucking crock of shit. The money was what it was then.
With the popular Ortiz unwilling to defend against Liddell, the UFC brass took action.
So we asked Chuck to sit out and wait for the fight. He refused to do that, and he took on Babalu Sobral.
And delivered a memorable head kick knockout against Renato Babalu Sobral, which extended his streak to 10 straight wins.
A fighter as we have. Oh, big leg kick. That's it. It's over. It is over. Big left leg kick.
The issue with Ortiz's contract wasn't resolved, so the UFC created an interim light heavyweight title and matched Liddell against Randy Couture at UFC 43. In a clash of styles, Couture successfully neutralized Liddell's feared punching power, using straight punches and clinches to blunt Chuck's looping hooks, and eventually took Liddell down and won by TKO. It was a humbling defeat for Liddell and a detour on his road to the title. Later that year, Liddell ventured into Japan's Pride Fighting Championships as part of an unprecedented cross-promotion. The UFC sent him to compete in Pride's 2003 middleweight Grand Prix tournament as their representative. Liddell started strong, knocking out Alistair Overeem in the opening round of the tournament. However, in the semifinal round, he ran into Rampage Jackson.
You beat him, you came to me and you talked to me, and you was like, hey, looks like it's gonna be us next. Let's go to a bar and have a drink. I said, oh shit, anybody ever ever said something like that to me.
I need deodorant.
Japan.
Get his eye
Yo,
Rampage,
don't be sad, you're the best. Yo, I haven't seen you in a minute. Yo, what's up? Let me go get some deodorant. I smell bad.
Profile and set the stage for future showdowns. By this time, Ortiz had finally settled his dispute with the UFC and returned to face Randy Couture for the undisputed light heavyweight championship, but he lost the bout. That defeat cleared the way for Ortiz to finally meet Liddell, setting the stage for their long-awaited clash at UFC 47.
You can just tell that Chuck would never lose to Tito.
You watch Chuck's walk in. He's literally smiling like he's going to have the happiest day of his life.
Stop. He looks.
He couldn't wait to kick Tito's ass.
How many times Tito fought that I wanted to see him just get his ass whooped? Tito and I hated each other, man. It was this thing where it was like me and Chuck Liddell versus Tito Ortiz. Wow, that's what it was like.
So Chuck was your guy.
Yeah.
Liddell delivered on the hype, unleashing a flurry of punches in the second round that sent Ortiz crumpling to the canvas, scoring a decisive knockout victory.
Okay, I'm back. No, you're the best, Hyper. Did you change your name? You have to have changed your name, bro, because that's not sounding familiar, but I know you're subbed.
Chuck is a better man tonight. He's gonna go on and fight the bell. I wish him luck.
In the 13 years been in this business and own this company, only time I've ever done this. When Tito and Chuck fought for the first time, I told Chuck I want your gloves and your trunks. Then you beat the snot out of him, and I put him in a glass case and hung him up in my house. Every time I walk in my door, the trunks were right there.
This win not only settled their feud, at least for the moment, but also affirmed Chuck Liddell's status as one of the UFC's biggest stars. In early 2005, Liddell's surging popularity took him beyond fights into reality TV. He was chosen as a coach on the inaugural season of The Ultimate Fighter, a reality show designed to introduce MMA to a wider audience. Liddell coached a team of up-and-coming fighters opposite fellow legend Randy Couture on season 1 of the show. The program was a breakout success for the UFC, and it made Chuck's Mohawk sporting icy persona known to millions of new viewers. On April 9th, 2005, Griffin and Bonner engaged in an epic blood and guts brawl that left both men exhausted and the audience enthralled.
We're going to the finale. We got no deal for season 2. The undercard fights happen and they're not that great. So we're going into the main event, Boris Griffin and Stephen Bonner. These two come in and just go to war.
These two crazy fucks are beating the shit out of each other, and it is a wild melee of a fight. And people were just calling friends up. You gotta watch this. This is insane because the viewership skyrockets during the fight.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's so wild.
Right.
And that fight made the UFC.
It was great. The team did great. Everyone did great. It allowed us to blow up. They didn't cost us. Shortly worse to get fight on TV. And we couldn't ask for a medal.
Shortly after the show, Liddell earned another shot at Randy Couture, this time with a championship on the line. On April 16, 2005 at UFC 52, Chuck Liddell faced Randy Couture in a rematch, now for the undisputed UFC Light Heavyweight Championship. Liddell entered determined to avoid a repeat of their first fight. This time, he kept the fight standing and found his range early. Midway through the first round, Liddell unleashed a powerful right hand that connected cleanly, knocking Couture out cold and crowning Chuck Liddell as the new UFC Light Heavyweight Champion. It was a pivotal moment in his career, the culmination of years of hard work and a victory that avenged his prior loss. The image of the Iceman with the UFC belt became an iconic symbol of the sport's mid-2000s era.
UFC World Champion Chuck Liddell. How does that sound? Sounds great. Phenomenal show. Now, what's next for you, Chuck?
I have no idea. I want the pride belt. I want Vanderlei myself. I want to knock him out. He's next.
When you came in, you blew up ESPN and everybody else.
Crazy. And when Chuck Liddell was the champion, Chuck Liddell was so fucking terrifying. He was the real reason why the UFC became uber popular, because you would watch The Ultimate Fighter, it was a wild fight, but then you need a destroyer, and that destroyer was Chuck Liddell.
Now at the top of the 205-pound division, Liddell went on a tear, defending his title against all challengers.
Tito got out of the picture, then you become like the big superstar of UFC. So a lot of people started watching sport because of you.
His first title defense came against Jeremy Horn, the seasoned grappler who had handed Liddell his first defeat years earlier. They fought at UFC 54 in August 2005, and this time, Liddell dominated. He knocked Horn down multiple times over the course of the fight. Horn, unable to continue due to vision problems, conceded in the 4th round, giving Liddell the TKO win. With that victory, Chuck had avenged another title loss. In February 2006, Liddell met Randy Couture for a 3rd time at UFC 57, in what was billed as the final chapter of their trilogy. Couture gave a spirited effort, but was again unable to withstand Liddell's striking. Liddell's star power kept growing, and so did the challenges.
He was hunting people.
Yeah.
He was hunting people, and he was a wrestler that never wrestled.
In August 2006 at UFC 62, he faced Renato Babalu Sobral in a rematch of a prior fight. Babalu charged forward aggressively, but Liddell countered with accurate punches. He finished the fight in just 1 minute and 35 seconds of the first round with a devastating uppercut knockout. It was another emphatic defense for the champ.
The run where he was at the top, where Chuck Liddell was just murking
So
people. He was an exceptional champion. He would just come after dudes and smash people. Like he never trying to win decisions. Chuck Liddell was trying to send you into the dream world. When he would win, he would throw his arms back like this. It was crazy.
The stage was then set for a blockbuster showdown, a second fight with Tito Ortiz.
You got the best me the first time. I'll come in here the second time. What are you doing, bro?
You want anytime you want, bro. You want to step in the ring with me again? You know that. I'll knock you out again.
I do beat him, and I show that Chuck Liddell is human and he is beatable.
When you listen to him talk, do you think he believes what he's saying?
I do. I just can't let him beat me. Yeah, I can't lose to that guy. He's got never heard the end of it. Bad enough when you beat him, you still can't hear the end of it. Columbia, engineers, or whatever.
As a business owner, I've got a lot on my plate. That's why I use ZipRecruiter to hire. ZipRecruiter has this feature.
What does smoke-free really mean? It means the freedom to choose your own.
On December 30th, 2006, Liddell and Ortiz met again at UFC 66, this time with Chuck's championship on the line. The bout had enormous hype and became the most financially successful UFC event at that point. Fans around the world tuned in to see if Ortiz could solve the riddle of the Iceman. Despite carrying a knee injury into the fight, Chuck put on a memorable performance. Ortiz attempted to implement his wrestling game plan, but Liddell stuffed many takedowns and punished Tito with strikes. In the third round, Liddell overwhelmed Ortiz with punches, forcing a referee stoppage for a TKO victory.
Wrestling's not ending here, but Tito has to win. Chuck Liddell remains the light heavyweight champion.
His fights when he knocked out Tito Ortiz, like, oh my god, he was a monster.
Right.
He was a monster.
I knew Chuck Liddell was going to win those fights. I knew he was. He had Tito's number. Tito couldn't deal with Chuck's style, his power, his wrestling. Tito couldn't take Chuck down, and Chuck was 1,000,000% in Tito's head.
It was Liddell's fourth consecutive title defense, and it emphatically reaffirmed his dominance over his rival. By the end of 2006, Chuck Liddell had cleared out most of the top contenders and was widely seen as the face of the UFC.
That was the big guy. He was the face of the company. If you, the casual fan, when you talk to him, like, have you seen the Chuck Liddell fight?
Right.
You're gonna see the Chuck Liddell fight.
But every great champion eventually meets his match. And for Liddell, that reckoning came in 2007.
That was the most nervous I've ever been for a fight when I fought Chuck in the UFC. I had dreams. This was years ago, but I never dreamed about any of my opponents. Before hunting him in his sleep, dog.
That's right.
In May of that year, he stepped into the octagon at UFC 71 to defend his title against Quinton Rampage Jackson, the man who had defeated him in Japan 4 years prior. This time the stakes were higher with UFC gold on the line. Rampage wasted little time in the rematch. He caught Liddell with a right hook in the first round, dropping him, and followed up with ground strikes to score a knockout just 1 minute 53 seconds into the fight. In a flash, Chuck Liddell's reign as champion was over. It was a stunning defeat, the first knockout loss of Liddell's UFC career, and it marked a turning point.
Chuck, you've been the most dominant light heavyweight champion in the history of the UFC. I know all your fans would love to see you perform again. We all love watching you fight. Thank you for all the fights you put on before in the past. Thank you for your performance tonight. We look forward to seeing you again. The Iceman, ladies and gentlemen.
Coming off the knockout loss to Rampage, Liddell returned to the cage only 4 months later against Keith Jardine. A quick turnaround that some felt left him without enough recovery time.
Chuck was supposed to fight Mandalay. For whatever reason, that couldn't happen right away. They wanted him to fight. So I remember I got the call, and so they ended up going against me so they could have a big Mandalay fight afterwards.
Liddell, a feared knockout artist, was expected to use Jardine as a stepping stone, but Jardine executed a flawless game plan. Jardine's awkward style and heavy leg kicks earned him a split decision win, handing Chuck his second straight defeat.
Did you feel like Chuck Liddell overlooked you or something?
Oh, I'm sure it did.
The back-to-back losses raised questions about whether the 37-year-old legend was slowing down after years at the top. In December 2007, Liddell entered the octagon with Pride superstar Vanderlei Silva at UFC 79. The matchup was a dream fight that fans had wanted for years. Two knockout artists with aggressive styles finally clashing. Neither man disappointed. Liddell and Silva battled for 3 thrilling rounds, trading power punches in one of the most action-packed fights in UFC history. Chuck Liddell won a unanimous decision, earning Fight of the Night honors, and the bout was later acclaimed as 2007's Fight of the Year. This victory was a career highlight and proved Liddell could still compete at an elite level. However, it would turn out to be the final win of his MMA career. By 2008, Father Time and the accumulated damage of a long career began catching up with the Iceman. On September 6, 2008, Liddell fought Rashad Evans at UFC 88.
When you had the fight with Chuck Liddell, you were a heavy underdog.
Yeah, when I got to the weigh-in and we did the face-off, for me, I was like, oh man, Chuck looks serious, you know, because I watched him so many times. That's when I really started to like think, man, I'm like Chuck Liddell. So that's when, for me, the nerves started. And then I hit up Randy Couture, who just happened to be a floor below me, going to see Randy, and I'm like, oh man, Randy, I'm scared, man. I'm scared. And Randy's like, what's going on? He's like, oh man, I just can't shake this feeling, man. I'm just so nervous about tomorrow, and I want to get beat up and knocked out in front of everybody. And best advice I ever got, he said, you gotta make friends with the worst enemy. When you make friends with the worst enemy, you understand that life will go on. And then I worked myself up into a habit just thinking about it. Like, yeah, I gotta face my fears. I gotta face my worst enemy, and I gotta face my, you know, whatever I'm afraid to happen. And then I became so comfortable with the idea that I may be getting embarrassed tomorrow. I was like, whatever is whatever. So I went out there feeling.
In the second round, Evans delivered one of the most devastating knockouts in UFC history.
Damn!
A single overhand right that instantly knocked Liddell out.
Damn! That was brutal.
Do you remember seeing that opening in that fight?
So whenever he throws, I'm gonna throw. It's called throw on throw. I just threw at the same time with the right hand, but I was really trying to catch him with the left hook. And I caught him with the right hand, and I was like, whoa! And I seen that he was on the ground, and I was like, oh my gosh, what? It was crazy.
And then he didn't get up.
It was such a flush shot.
The brutal loss was a sobering moment. Many observers thought it might be the end of the road for Chuck.
Because his style was so aggressive, that people could just set, boom, and counter, like Rashad Evans did with him. And so you're getting his momentum coming forward, and the shot would get flatlined. That style, comes a certain point in time when you just can't do that anymore.
Liddell, however, was not ready to hang it up yet. He returned in April 2009 to face Mauricio Shogun Rua, former Pride champion at UFC 97. Once again, the fight didn't go his way. Shogun stopped Liddell via TKO in the first round after landing a series of punches. After the loss to Shogun Rua, UFC President Dana White openly contemplated whether it was time for Liddell to hang up the gloves.
I care about him. I care about his health. And it's over, man. We all turned 40. It's over. Listen, I've been pushing for retirement. He's my friend. I love him. I care about him. We sat down. We had a 2-hour talk. He wanted to do this. Fucking has nothing to prove. Nothing to prove. He doesn't have to prove anything to me, the rest of the world. He's got shitloads of money. There's no reason for it.
They eventually agreed on one final fight, win or lose, which was set to be against Tito Ortiz after the two coached opposite each other on season 11 of The Ultimate Fighter. However, Ortiz pulled out with an injury.
Chuck told me before the season started, when I asked him to do it, he said, I guarantee you, Tito will not fight me. We'll do this show and he'll pull out of the fight, I guarantee it. And that's why when Tito pulled out, I was like, holy shit. Chuck was right, and you know, I had to go tell Chuck that Tito pulled out.
Tito pulled out of the fight. That fucking pussy. Don't let that fucking guy fight anymore, man. He's a fucking pussy.
And for his final UFC appearance, Liddell was instead matched with Rich Franklin at UFC 115. But despite starting strong, he was knocked out at the end of the first round.
Gotta suspect this is the last time we see Chuck Liddell in the octagon. I was just thinking the same thing.
After this third consecutive knockout defeat, UFC President Dana White publicly stated it was time for Liddell to retire for his own safety.
I have to talk to Chuck. Yeah, Chuck went to the hospital. Chuck Liddell came in. He worked hard for this thing. And, you know, I think him and Rich Franklin tonight fought the type of fights that made them both famous and made them both world champions tonight. Those two went at it. He means a lot to this company, and he means a lot to the sport. He means a lot to me personally. He's a great champion. He was a great business partner. He's always going to have a home in the UFC. If he gave it his last shot, you know what? He went out like Chuck Liddell would. Came out blasting, bombing, tried to put Rich away in a slugfest, and he gave the fans a good
I'm gonna get some
fight
weights.
with the Iceman.
Liddell was 39 years
Who wanna
old.
run
Nothing
into
on July 10th, 2009.
TY?
He was honored with induction into the UFC
In a
Hall
dark
of Fame
alley,
by
bright alley,
for
whatever.
his contributions to the sport. Finally, on December 29th, 2010, Chuck Liddell formally announced his retirement from professional fighting. He made the announcement at a UFC 125 press conference, appearing emotionally reflective as he thanked his family, fans, and coaches for their support.
People ask me for a long time why I stuck around so long. Like, if I was getting my ass kicked and then getting knocked out, it would have been a lot easier to hang it up. I was being paid really well, and I was winning fights and then just getting caught. So you always think, oh man, I can fix that. We had a dinner together. I said, look, man, I can't figure out why this happened. I can't compete the way I used to, so, you know, I'm done.
And I'm here today with my partner Lorenzo Fertitta to announce his retirement. Myself, my partners owe a lot to Chuck Liddell. And we're also here today to announce that he is becoming one of the top executives in the UFC. Chuck Liddell is now the new Executive Vice President of Business Development.
And he has literally seen this sport evolve from a very small niche sport to what it is today, you know, a global sport that is becoming worldwide now. So we welcome Chuck Liddell to the UFC executive team.
Well, thank Frank, Lorenzo, and Dana for everything they've done for me over the years and for the sport.
Chuck, you really set the bar for, you know, where UFC was and what it was and giving the storyline and becoming a character. I mean, so many people owe you their career. The UFC owes you so much. You put the entire industry and sport on your back. You became this like larger than life character.
I don't know, I never was a character, that's what made it easy. I mean, I just went out and was me. As an athlete and getting ready for something your whole life. You know, you got something coming up, something doing this, something that. And then all of a sudden, you're done. For me, that was my brakes. That was my control. That was the brakes for my crazy side.
As part of his retirement, Liddell accepted a job as an executive with the UFC. The company named him Vice President of Business Development, a role that allowed the beloved Hall of Famer to stay involved with the organization outside of the cage. It was a bittersweet moment, the end of an era for a legendary fighter, but the beginning of a new chapter outside of competition. Stepping away from active competition, Chuck Liddell remained a prominent figure in the MMA world and beyond. His Hall of Fame status and charismatic persona made him an ambassador for the sport. As a UFC executive, he made public appearances and helped promote events. Outside of MMA, Liddell's fame led to opportunities in entertainment. In 2009, he appeared as a contestant on season 9 of Dancing with the Stars, showcasing his footwork in a very different arena.
We're always trying to get on things like I did Dance with the Stars. Not because I want to go to head dance. It's a different demographic. It's a different audience. We're trying to grow the sport. We're trying to get people to take a look at us dancing. We're all sitting here in the stand like every sport I've been in. When I get to that position, I'm screwed.
He lasted 4 weeks on the show before elimination. Liddell also dabbled in acting, often playing himself or cameo roles that nodded to his Iceman image. These appearances illustrated how Liddell's mainstream popularity had grown hand in hand with the rise of the UFC.
So you like acting?
I like it. I have a good time with it. I think I'll keep doing it as long as it's fun.
Liddell's post-retirement career with the UFC continued until 2016. That year, the UFC was sold to new owners, and the company underwent widespread corporate restructuring. In late 2016, Chuck Liddell, along with fellow Hall of Famer Matt Hughes, was let go from his UFC executive position during a round of staff layoffs by the new ownership. It marked the end of his so-called lifetime job with the UFC, which had been created as a gesture of thanks for his contributions. Liddell handled the news professionally, acknowledging the change and moving on to new ventures. Though no longer on the UFC payroll, he remained a revered presence at MMA events and in the community, often attending fights as a fan and doing the occasional media appearance or seminar. In 2018, nearly a decade after his initial retirement, Chuck Liddell surprised the MMA world by announcing a comeback.
So you are making a comeback. If the right fight comes up, you're making a comeback.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
If someone's got to make a real offer, you know, and it makes sense.
Trying to.
48 years old, long past his athletic prime, Liddell still felt the competitive itch and specifically wanted another shot at his
Tank as the
worldwide
Kung Fu
title.
Pioneer fighter. Oh, look him up. Tayari Gasel. Yeah, I be trying, bro. I don't know if I call it Chisao.
Well, I said this before, I hope he's coming out of retirement to be partners with Dave La Hoya and not to fight. I hope he doesn't fight. Last thing I want to do is shit on Chuck Liddell, because I love him, but I asked him to retire 10 years ago for a reason. I hope he makes a lot of money. I hope the event is very successful for them, but I wish it wasn't happening.
8+ years since you've been in the cage, so why now?
My fans want to see it. Other people saying I can't do it, I'm too old, been out of the game too long. And I took it as a challenge. I love a challenge. I'm ready to knock this fool out one more time. I'm here to show that you're never too old to be late. I'm here to prove that I can do this.
I think if Chuck Liddell was still employed at the UFC, getting paid $400,000 just to chill or whatever he was doing for the UFC, he would not be fighting. I think there's more of a money play, which bumps me out. Because I think Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz, what they did for the sport should be compensated for the rest of their lives. But he has been saying that he misses it. It was his favorite thing.
Yeah, that's
And
what
that he
it is.
misses it. To me, it's more of a sad story. But see, I think Tito, he might actually want this fight just to fight Chuck again.
On November 24th, 2018, Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz stepped into the cage one last time. The bout drew attention for its nostalgia, though many observers were concerned about Liddell's age and long layoff. Unfortunately for Chuck, the fight itself was one-sided. Ortiz knocked out Liddell in the first round, emphatically avenging his losses from years before.
And Ortiz said, let's see if you still got that power.
Liddell looked noticeably slower and off balance, and the outcome sparked serious discussion about the dangers of older fighters returning to competition. In the aftermath, Liddell was gracious in defeat, but the result was a clear sign that his fighting days were truly over.
He just felt like he always had Tito's number. But this is the problem, is like Tito wins now. When it all said and done, Tito KO'd him. And he KO'd him more soundly than Chuck ever KO'd Tito. Tito put Chuck out. He put him out. You're dealing with a guy whose brains are, it's just, he's been scrambled too many times.
He didn't immediately make a retirement speech in the cage, but the consensus in the MMA community was that this would be the end. And in March 2020, Chuck Liddell confirmed he had retired from MMA competition again, this time for good. Despite the disappointing final chapter, the fact that Liddell dared to compete one more time underscored his warrior spirit and love for the sport. Fans and fellow fighters alike expressed hope that he would remain healthy after a career filled with knockouts. They celebrated his legacy rather than dwelling on the late losses. Outside of fighting, Chuck Liddell has experienced personal highs and lows. He became a father and has been involved in raising his children, even as his public life stayed busy. However, in October 2021, Liddell made headlines for troubling reasons. He was arrested at his home in Hidden Hills, California, on a misdemeanor domestic violence charge after an incident involving his wife. According to police reports, there had been a minor physical altercation. Both Chuck and his wife sustained very minor injuries and accused each other of being the aggressor. Liddell was jailed briefly and released on bond. Ultimately, the Los Angeles County District Attorney declined to file charges against either party, citing insufficient evidence and the mutual claims of assault. A few days after the incident, Liddell filed for divorce, and the couple entered into a custody battle over their 2 children. During the legal proceedings in 2022, some deeply personal and concerning allegations emerged. As part of a custody evaluation, Chuck's estranged wife claimed that Liddell was exhibiting signs of chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, the degenerative brain condition associated with repeated head trauma.
Do you have moments in your life now where maybe being kicked in the head, punched in the head, knocked out is affecting you now?
Not that I know of, no. I didn't know this, but my wife said she did.
She alleged that Chuck's memory had deteriorated, his behavior had become increasingly erratic and paranoid, and that he struggled with issues like insomnia and slurred speech, which she attributed to the many knockouts he suffered in his career.
I've been doing some substance brain training, and did an EEG in my brain, and I do have a lot of kind of neuronic things. I'm stuck in like fight or flight most of the time. I'm supposed to fight or flight, things are kind of firing all the time, and I have like the different places where I'm not using.
The custody evaluation ultimately recommended that Chuck and his ex-wife share joint custody of their children, while also mandating measures like random drug testing to ensure a safe environment. Despite the personal turmoil, Liddell has generally kept a low profile in recent years, focusing on family and health. Chuck the Iceman Liddell's legacy is cemented as one of the fighters who helped drag mixed martial arts into the mainstream. With his trademark mohawk, icy stare, and devastating knockout power, he became the face of the UFC's rise in the mid-2000s.
Chuck was rock star.
Yeah, you kind of lived by your own terms.
Holding the light heavyweight title from 2005 to 2007, Liddell racked up 21 professional wins, 16 inside the UFC, and built unforgettable rivalries with Tito Ortiz and Randy Couture that defined an era. Beyond the cage, his crossover into pop culture proved that an MMA fighter could become a global icon. Liddell remains a Hall of Famer, a trailblazer, and a symbol of the sport's evolution from underground spectacle to worldwide phenomenon.
Chuck and I had done it. We did it. We did it together, and again, going back, I managed getting into the UFC, becoming a huge star, world champion, making tons of money, becoming famous, doing other things, and then eventually retiring. It was all done the right way at the right time.
I don't have any regrets. I had a great time. I mean, it was fun. I got paid a lot of money to do what I love for a living, and my body held together pretty dang well for what I put it through.
ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology scans resumes and identifies people whose skills and experience match.
Mirko Krokop, who was the head of an anti-terror squadron in Croatia, and he's a real murderer. You're talking about a different kind of.
Yeah, Krokop was like one of a kind.
An elite high-level kickboxer.
Oh, get down to the Igor! This man is taking over!
They were the hardest kickers ever. They had different rules for him.
People in the UFC never really saw, they didn't see this guy.
No.
You know what I mean?
No, he was.
Does it bother you that it ended this way? That all this stuff happened at the end and you couldn't go out on your own terms?
They gave me 2 years for nothing. You know why? Because I was the first one.
If you're drawn to the stories behind the fighters, the triumphs, and the chaos, hit that like button and subscribe. Now let's step into the world of Mirko Krokop. Born on September 10, 1974, in Prevlaka, just south of Vinkovci in eastern Croatia, Mirko Filipovic was raised in a humble working-class family.
Prevlaka is a small village with 4,000 people near Vinkovci. I lived here until 1994, then I moved to Zagreb.
Young Mirko developed athletic prowess early, excelling in track and field sprints as a boy. His first inspiration for combat sports came from action movies. After watching Jean-Claude Van Damme in Bloodsport, the teenager began mimicking moves in his parents' garage using homemade training equipment.
Just at that time came the Bloodsport with Van Damme. When I saw Van Damme, his looks, his moves, I said, to hell with athletics, I became completely crazy about that sport. That was the last athletics training for me. I poured concrete, waited for it to harden, put it in a bar, and waited a day. The next day I made the other side,
including a sand-filled punching bag.
My punching bag was horny with sawdust inside leaking out. I used to punch that bag for a few days. I would rip through it with punches. I took a chalk and drew a man on the wall. Then I would kick it for 2 to 3 hours. My father used to tell me 100 times at 11 at night to go to bed to kick it, but I would still go on.
Mirko started formal martial arts training in Taekwondo at age 7, and later studied karate, laying the foundation for his striking skills.
I was 17 years old in 1991. I remember us coming here as kids. When the tanks were rolling out, they were taking it out on the houses. Every house got 2 shells. They reported from the Vinkovci High School that the classes are organizing to start. Some were going to Zagreb. I got Verazko. That's when Igor Varga took me in. I spent 6 months at this place. The first thing I asked was, is there a kickboxing club? They had a boxing club and a karate club. I first went to the karate club right after school. I had to see where it is and what I could do. I didn't like it. That didn't interest me. Then I saw a group of 5 to 6 in gloves and pads fighting. I asked the coach, can I go with them? He said, I don't care. As soon as the school was finished, I ran to the gym and stayed until 9 p.m. I would warm up, do push-ups, hit the bag, and do the practice with them.
Tragedy struck when Mirko's father passed away in 1994. Around the same time, Mirko had enlisted in the Croatian army amid the post-independence era turmoil.
When I was in the military, my father passed away. For what money we had left, we made our father a tomb memorial. Then we were left with no money. I remember it as it was today, giving a request for a police academy. I wanted to go to Zagreb to train to get a chance to fight. That was my ultimate dream, K1 and stuff. And I submitted a request for the academy. I go through the entry exams, but I was under the entry line. Mum crying, my heart was breaking. But then I was playing cards with some guys at a friend's house. Drago comes in. He was looking all over for me. He goes, right now in the car, it's urgent. I came home, Mum was holding a paper. A telegram came in from the police academy that I was admitted. Some link worked. I tried from several sides for people to push me in. To this day, I don't know who enrolled me. Whoever it was, I am thankful.
While serving as a radio telegraphist, Filipovic was determined not to abandon his fighting dreams. He wrote to his base commander requesting permission to train with Croatia's national kickboxing team, a bold ask that was surprisingly granted. Encouraged by the support, Mirko embarked on a combat sports career while still fulfilling his national service.
My friend and manager, Zvonimir Lucic, discovered me. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be sitting here today. When I was in the college, I was making money as a bouncer. Then when he saw my talent and my will, he enabled me not to have to work. He gave me money every month, paid for my apartment, so I was without worries.
He soon joined Croatia's elite police special forces unit, the Luchko Anti-Terrorist Unit, as a commando, an occupation that earned him the famous nickname Krokop, short for Croatian Cop. For 6 years, he balanced duty as a special forces officer with his budding fight career.
It was my childhood dream to be in the special forces and the best fighter in the world. I was lucky enough in life to see both of my dreams come true.
until shifting focus fully to martial arts after 2001.
You know what's the definition of pain? It's when you're focusing on punching the pad with bare fists. I have to bandage it. My finger joints are all bloody after it. The price of my success is very big, but a lot of people don't know that.
Entering professional kickboxing in 1996, Filipovic quickly made a mark on the international scene. In his pro debut, he impressively defeated top French kickboxer Jérôme Le Banner, signaling that the heavy-handed southpaw from Croatia was a force to be reckoned with. Competing under the ring name Mirko Cro Cop, he became known for an explosive striking style rooted in his karate and taekwondo background. Cro Cop's signature weapon was his lightning quick left high roundhouse kick. Strike so fearsome that he joked, right leg, hospital, left leg, cemetery.
Whole body kicks. Left leg on toes and then body rotation. Body rotation gives power to the punch. The standing leg has to rotate. This kick detaches your head.
This intimidating left kick, combined with a stiff straight left punch, allowed Cro Cop to knock out elite opponents even when they knew it was coming. By leveraging speed, timing, and excellent takedown defense, he built a reputation as one of the most dangerous strikers of his era. Cro Cop's early kickboxing career saw him face some of the world's best in K1, the premier kickboxing organization. He was a tournament finalist in the 1999 K1 World Grand Prix and again in the 2000 World Grand Prix in Fukuoka. Along the way, he clashed with legends like four-time K1 champion Ernesto Hoost and Remy Bonjasky. Sporting a 21-7 kickboxing record in his initial K1 stint, Cro Cop was already viewed as one of the heavyweight kickboxing greats by the early 2000s.
Classic. They had some wars in K1, man. I mean, he was in the mix with some of the best fighters in the world.
Frustration with K1's financial incentives, however, led him to seek new challenges in mixed martial arts around 2001. Notably, during this period, he also triumphed in amateur boxing. He was a three-time Croatian national amateur boxing champion and even represented Croatia at the 1997 Amateur Boxing World Championships. This well-rounded striking pedigree made Cro Cop a uniquely dangerous fighter. In 2001, Mirko Cro Cop made the bold leap to MMA. At the time, Pride FC in Japan was home to many of the world's best heavyweight mixed martial artists, and Cro Cop's arrival generated tremendous excitement.
Pride was some of the most exciting and spectacular fights in the early days of MMA by far.
He entered MMA with limited grappling experience, but his striking aura was so great that he was immediately put in high-profile matches. To ease his transition into MMA and protect one of their most marketable new stars, Pride gave him a series of special rules fights designed to showcase his striking while minimizing the risk of being exposed on the ground.
He was coming over as a straight kickboxer, and they had different rules for him. The rules for Cro Cop were like you could only fight on the ground for like 30 seconds. Yeah, and if the fight went to a distance, it would be a draw. This was before Cro Cop really had sort of mastered MMA. He really didn't have a lot of experience with takedown defense or any MMA fighting back then.
His debut against Kazuyuki Fujita was contested under modified rules that banned ground strikes and limited ground engagement, including quick stand-ups when the fight hit the mat. These adjustments effectively neutralized Fujita's wrestling advantage. But Cro Cop didn't need the advantage for long. Fujita shot in for a takedown. Cro Cop read it perfectly and launched a left knee that caused a cut on Fujita's head and led to a 39-second TKO victory. Later that year in November, he faced Nobuhiko Takada under rules that eliminated judges' decisions. If the fight went the distance, it would automatically be ruled a draw, which it was. On New Year's Eve 2001, Cro Cop fought Yuji Nagata in another limited ground bout, ending it in just 21 seconds. Then, in April 2002, he took on Vanderlei Silva in a heavily hyped match held under unique rules. 2 10-minute rounds and no judges, guaranteeing a draw if there was no finish.
Right, Mirko Cro Cop versus Vanderlei Silva. This is the best stare down ever because Vanderlei was basically, his nickname's the Axe Murderer. He's a fucking savage. He was a Pride middleweight champion, but he was fighting Mirko Cro Cop, who was the head of an anti-terrorist squadron in Croatia, and he's a real murderer. You're talking about a different kind of fucking straight-up killer and an elite high-level kickboxer. That's the eyes of the guy who's killed someone with a knife.
Probably the best stare down of all time. First time Vanderlei got outstared. Fucking straight up killer. Oh yeah. Looking right into your soul. Yeah. Yeah, ready to cut your heart out with a fucking butter knife.
These special rules contests allowed Cro Cop to develop his MMA skills in real time, build a winning record, and maintain his aura as a fearsome striker, all while avoiding the early dangers of the ground game. After his high-profile fight with Vanderlei Silva, Mirko officially transitioned into a full MMA fighter. That bout marked the end of his modified rule matches. From Pride 21 onward, Cro Cop competed under standard Pride FC rules. promotions. He was a massive draw in Japan, marketed as the stoic Croatian commando and headlining major cards with theatrical military-style promos. He followed up by defeating Japanese icon Kazushi Sakuraba in 2002 in front of a crowd of 71,000 at the Tokyo National Stadium, still the largest attendance ever for an MMA event.
Getting kicks are so unusual. Speed was ridiculous.
In March 2003 at the K1 World Grand Prix in Saitama, Mirko Cro Cop faced the legendary Bob Sapp in what became one of MMA's most unforgettable knockouts. Just over a minute into the fight, Cro Cop landed a powerful left straight that fractured Sapp's orbital bone, forcing him to clutch his eye in pain and retreat. The referee stopped the bout moments later, awarding Cro Cop a TKO victory. It was a clinical display of striking precision, and the injury to Sapp's orbital bone became one of the most memorable finishes of Cro Cop's run.
Broke his eye socket. Mirko is literally almost 200 pounds lighter than him. Mirko Cro Cop was a fucking savage back then, man. One of the most dangerous guys as far as like sniper striking.
Once first signed to Pride, Cro Cop embarked on a tear through the heavyweight division. He quickly proved that elite striking could carry him far in MMA. In late 2003, in only his 7th pro MMA fight, he faced top contender Heath Herring and devastated him with a liver kick and punches for a first-round TKO.
There's a picture of him when he fought Heath Herring. Kicked him in the body, and his body is like, his chin is like halfway into his body. It's a horrible picture. And especially that left one, which is, you know, he said right kick hospital, left kick cemetery.
Cro Cop then made a statement by doing what no one had done before, knocking out the iron-jawed Igor Vovchanchin, a legendary Ukrainian striker, with a trademark head kick. This passing of the torch moment signaled that Cro Cop was a new king of strikers in Pride's ranks.
Everybody knows that the left kick is coming, but for some reason, they can't see it coming.
Maybe one of the reasons is because it's my favorite kick, and I train it every day.
Left, another left, something. Oh, he kicked it down to Igor. This man is taking over. He is taking over the heavyweight division.
His knockouts in Pride are some of the all-time greatest highlight reel head kick knockouts. Igor Vovchanchin, boom! Alexander Emelianenko, boom! Just blasting dudes with that head kick.
You forget sometimes how insane the highlight reel of Mirko Cro Cop is.
He capped off 2003 by earning a shot at Pride's interim heavyweight championship against former champion Antonio Rodrigo Minotauro Nogueira. In that title fight, Cro Cop dominated the Brazilian on the feet early, even flooring Nogueira with punches. But the bout showcased Mirko's one major weakness, his novice ground game.
Apparently, Nogueira can take the body chest kicks.
In the second round, Nogueira, a Brazilian jiu-jitsu master, took Cro Cop down and secured an armbar submission, handing Mirko the first loss of his MMA career. It was a humbling defeat, yet Cro Cop vowed to improve his grappling and come back stronger. The resilient Cro Cop indeed rebounded. After a couple of wins, he entered Pride's 2004 Heavyweight Grand Prix, a prestigious tournament, as a favorite. In a shocking upset, Mirko was knocked out in the first round of the tournament by Kevin Randleman, a powerhouse wrestler who caught him with a left hook. Rather than derail him, this loss fueled Cro Cop's determination. Over the next year, he went on a 7-fight winning streak. During this stretch, he avenged his loss to Randleman, submitting the former UFC champion with a guillotine choke in the rematch.
And just like that, Mirko Cro Cop erases the most devastating loss in his career.
And defeated other top heavyweights, including Josh Barnett and Mark Coleman.
Very bad left hook, uppercut, finds its mark, and down goes Coleman. Sucker kick.
By mid-2005, Mirko had earned a long-awaited showdown with Fedor Emelianenko for the Pride title. The Cro Cop versus Fedor fight in August 2005 was one of the most anticipated MMA bouts of the decade. Cro Cop started strong. He stunned Emelianenko and even broke the Russian's nose. But Fedor proved resilient and well-rounded. As the fight wore on, he took it to the ground and gained the advantage. After 20 minutes, Fedor won a unanimous decision. Despite falling short in his title bid, Mirko remained a top heavyweight threat. His crowning achievement in Pride came the following year.
Everything is for nothing. Without the money, everything is for nothing. I remember since I was a kid,
And all the training, I just wanted to take the belt. I just wanted to be the best. Belt of $10 million, I prefer a belt.
In 2006, Crow Cop entered Pride's Open Weight Grand Prix and tore through the bracket. On his 32nd birthday at Pride Final Conflict Absolute, he faced Vanderlei Silva in the semifinals and delivered one of the most devastating knockouts ever.
He was lighting Vanderlei up in that fight. And Crow Cop wound up head kicking him. God damn, he uncorked that left hook on the button.
Flooring Silva with a left high kick.
Yep, and he was the first one to flatline Vanderlei too, remember that? I was watching that fight because I was gonna go fight Nogueira after that. How the fuck? This guy is just, at his best, is just absolute, pure, like, explosive power. People in the UFC never really they didn't see this guy.
No.
You know what I mean?
No, he was incredible.
In the tournament final later that night, Crow Cop rematched Josh Barnett and secured the Open Weight Grand Prix championship belt. Overcome with emotion, Crow Cop broke down in tears as Pride officials wrapped the championship belt in his face. This is the happiest day of my life, told the crowd.
The happiest day of my life, definitely. I was waiting for this for 10 long years, and finally I knew that I'm the best, but sometimes some circumstances just didn't let me do it. After Pedro's fight, that I am number one.
Completely a poker face, you never show any emotions. Right when you won, you completely broke down.
Believe or not, I swear with everything I got, I told myself, if I don't take this belt, it will be my last MMA fight in my life. I would quit fighting, I swear. And that's why I said, now or never.
Outside the ring, Mirko served his country in another way. Politics. He was elected as a member of the Croatian parliament in December 2003. Astonishingly, he legislated by weekday and fought on weekends, balancing public service with professional fighting through the peak of his Pride tenure. He held his seat until 2007.
I heard by the way you're in the government now?
Yeah, I'm a member of parliament.
Can you give me a little city or something, make me the head of the mayor or something?
Yeah, I can put you as a mayor of
That would be great. We see each other a little bit more.
We've swallowed their fatigue quick fixes for years. Enough. New region energy. With CoQ10 and vitamins D3 and K2, our fast-absorbing formula strengthens and energizes you from the core. No quick fixes necessary. Synergy. We can save ourselves.
New era, nothing beats real.
For service, press 1. Your call is important to us. You are 87 to line.
Here at BTMW, we build metal enclosures for critical infrastructure. We chose.
By late 2006, with Pride FC faltering financially, several of its stars were courted by the UFC.
Today is a great day for me. I'm very excited today. I've been coming back and forth for 7 years, challenging Pride and Pride fighters to fight the UFC. The only two companies in this world that matter are the UFC and Pride. Who is the best fighter in the world in each weight class? How does he test himself? Money is great, it's great to make money, but at the end of the day, what a fighter wants to leave behind is his legacy. So finally, after 7 years, we're going to be able to answer all the questions we've been waiting to answer. All the challenges we've been waiting to make happen are now going to happen.
Mirko Crow Cop was widely ranked as a top 3 heavyweight globally, so the UFC made signing him a top priority. He debuted in the Octagon in February 2007 at UFC 67, easily dispatching Eddie Sanchez by TKO. It was a triumphant introduction. Many assumed Crow Cop would soon be contending for the UFC heavyweight title. At the time, he was such a feared striker that betting odds for his debut had him as a historic minus 1,200 favorite. But his next fight shocked the world.
Basically, got Crow Cop, but Gonzaga worked him over so bad before that, elbowed the shit out of him on the ground. I think he was already loopy by the time he got up.
It's so crazy that that's the technique you've been landing on everybody. Somebody caught you with it.
That was a crazy kick too. Boom, shin to the dome. And to see Crow Cop fold and go out like that, I was like, oh my
They looked like he destroyed his knee on the way down.
Yeah.
ACLs needed now.
In September 2007, he fought Czech Congo and lost a decision in a bout marred by multiple illegal low blows. With 2 consecutive defeats, Crow Cop exited the UFC to regroup in Japan.
And the thing about Crow Cop is, I feel like UFC fans, again, don't appreciate the majesty of those Crow Cop in his prime. We got him after a long career, a hard career against Fedor and against Josh Barnett. I mean, he fought some fucking battles. So by the time we got him in the UFC, he had been in quite a few, like, real way.
In early 2008, Mirko Cro Cop announced he would fight in Japan under the new promotion Dream, pausing his UFC run. He debuted at Dream 1 in March 2008 with a first-round TKO win over Tatsuya Mizuno, and expressed that he felt more at home in a ring than in a cage. He emphasized that his move wasn't about running from the UFC, but about rediscovering his fighting spirit. During this stint, his most notable bout came in September 2008 against Alistair Overeem, which ended in a no contest after Overeem landed repeated accidental knees to Cro Cop's groin, causing a severe injury. One of Cro Cop's testicles was reportedly lodged by the impact. Cro Cop didn't build much momentum in Dream, and injuries combined with a desire to settle unfinished business brought him back toward the UFC. In 2009, he took a one-off fight at UFC 99 in Germany.
As far as the deal with Mirko, is it true that this is a one-fight deal, or is that not true?
I think that's Mirko and I are working on that still. But listen, Mirko Cro Cop ended up on his card like last minute, within weeks before the event, and this whole deal was done verbally over the phone with me and him. He and I started talking on the phone one Sunday, and it escalated to this. And you're right, I've never done this. In the history of the company, I've never done this with anybody ever. We did this thing over the phone. I've never done that ever in 9 years of being in this business.
Defeating Mustafa Al-Turk by TKO. However, controversy followed when UFC President Dana White accused Cro Cop of breaking a verbal agreement for a multi-fight deal by entertaining a new offer from Dream. Reports even emerged that Cro Cop had signed a 3-fight deal with Dream, though Mirko claimed it was a misunderstanding and that he intended to speak with White first. The incident briefly painted him as an unreliable negotiator, but tensions eased when UFC executive Lorenzo Fertitta personally flew to Croatia to bring him back. By the fall of 2009, Cro Cop had signed a new 3-fight deal with the UFC. Cro Cop's second UFC run saw mixed results. First was a TKO loss to Junior Dos Santos. After taking significant damage, Cro Cop bowed out in the 3rd round due to a swollen eye, signaling to the referee that he couldn't see. In the locker room afterward, a frustrated Mirko admitted he didn't feel the hunger anymore and had started playing it safe. A candid acknowledgement that his mindset had changed after years of wars. He then had wins over Anthony Parash and Pat Barry. However, father time and accumulated damage caught up soon after. Cro Cop stepped in as a late injury replacement to fight Frank Mir at UFC 119 in September 2010. But the bout was largely uneventful until Mir landed a knee that knocked Mirko out cold in the final minute. Behind the scenes, Cro Cop was dealing with injuries. He had suffered a herniated disc in training weeks before the Mir fight, but chose not to withdraw. He soldiered on to fulfill his contract, but his performances were diminishing. And then he had 2 more knockout losses to Brendan Schaub and Roy Nelson. After this 3rd straight KO loss, Dana White and Mirko himself agreed it was time to part ways. Cro Cop announced his first retirement from MMA competition, acknowledging that the UFC chapter of his career had closed.
20 years. I had a long and rich career, and I can say it was successful. Not in UFC, which I'll never be able to forgive myself. Everything was good when I was in Japan, and then unfortunately injury started, and I had six surgeries in the meantime, and it all reflects especially on your head,
Mirko Cro Cop is a legend in the sport. He did great things over Pride. He came over here and he was a stud in the UFC.
Though briefly retired from MMA, Cro Cop wasn't done fighting. In 2012, he returned to kickboxing with a farewell event in Zagreb, defeating Ray Sefo by decision. Energized by the home crowd, he re-entered the K1 circuit and in March 2013 won the K1 World Grand Prix. 13 years after finishing as a runner-up, he won 3 fights in one night. Despite being nearly 39, he proved he could still dominate the striking arena. He continued kickboxing through 2014, including a close and controversial loss to Remy Bonjasky. During this period, he also returned to MMA occasionally, submitting Shinichi Suzukawa in 2012, losing to grappling specialist Alexei Olenek in 2013, and then defeating Olympic judoka Satoshi Ishii twice in 2014, the second time by head kick knockout to win the IGF heavyweight title. These performances, particularly in Japan, kept Cro Cop active and paved the way for one final UFC return. In early 2015, the UFC re-signed 40-year-old Cro Cop for one final final run, surprising fans with a rematch against Gabriel Gonzaga, the man who had brutally knocked him out 8 years earlier. In round 3, Cro Cop turned the tide with sharp elbows in the clinch, dazing Gonzaga before finishing him on the ground with a flurry of strikes. It was a powerful moment of redemption, earning Fight of the Night honors and proving that even at 40, Cro Cop still had flashes of his former self.
Sweet revenge when Mirko came back and smashed him with elbows from the top
Yeah,
in their
right.
match.
However, just months later, his comeback was derailed by a doping controversy. In 2015, Cro Cop suffered a serious shoulder injury. In an interview, he publicly admitted he had tried human growth hormone to stimulate recovery.
The doctors told me to try HGH, which is banned. It's listed as a PPD. HGH is used for regeneration of the connective tissues, tendons, and ligaments. I took a small therapeutic dosage a day, just so I'd heal. I called the UFC. I spoke to the person in charge for this sort of thing. I told him they came to test me, and I gave them samples. I'm calling to let you know I've been taking HGH for 6 days because my shoulder is a disaster. I'm calling so you have this on record. Tell them I have all the medical documentation. The guy goes, yeah, we'll check it out. Then the UFC called him. Then I get on the phone with the guy from the agency for an hour. I tell him, why cancel the fight? What if you don't find anything? You know what he tells me? It doesn't matter. You're still suspended. You had a desire to use.
Before any official action was taken, Cro Cop announced his retirement from MMA, citing injuries and his inability to train properly.
Around 3 weeks ago, came out and you wrote a post on your website saying that you were out of your fight against Anthony Hamilton and that you were walking away from the sport. The injuries had caught up. You just can't do it anymore. And then after that, USADA comes out and says that you failed your drug test, and then you come out and have to respond to that and say that you told them that you had to, use certain substances because you had a shoulder injury, and then they come out and suspend you for 2 years.
I had a serious injury of my shoulder, I wasn't able to fight.
Shortly after, USADA issued a 2-year suspension based solely on his public admission, the first issued under the UFC's new USADA program.
Even if they didn't come to test you, the injuries, all that stuff, you wouldn't have been able to fight in Seoul, right? It had nothing to do with the test.
Yeah, I would definitely cancel that fight.
Considering how proud you are as a person and as an athlete, does it bother you that it ended this way? That all this stuff happened at the end and you couldn't go out on your own terms? Does that upset you?
That's right. This is a violent sport, and in the most of the cases, the end is violent.
The UFC terminated his contract in July 2016, effectively ending his UFC career. Though it briefly tarnished his legacy, Cro Cop, who had long been outspoken against PEDs, accepted the outcome, focused on recovery. By summer 2016, shoulder healed, he quietly unretired and returned to competition in Japan beyond USADA's reach. Mirko Cro Cop's final competitive chapter came in Japan's Risen Fighting Federation, where he entered the 2016 Openweight Grand Prix as the oldest fighter in the 16-man tournament. Despite being 42, he delivered a series of vintage performances, submitting Hyunman Myung in the opening round and defeating Muhammad King Molawal by second-round TKO. On New Year's Eve 2016, Cro Cop fought twice in one night. With that victory, he became only the second fighter in history to win major Grand Prix titles in both kickboxing, K1, and MMA, Pride and Risen. In 2018, Cro Cop signed with Bellator and, after rehabbing a torn ACL, rematched Roy Nelson in February 2019.
You have a one-fight contract with Bellator, right? Is that still the case?
One fight.
But you had an injury, right? And you had to withdraw. What was the injury and how's your health at this point?
I broke my ACL.
And you're feeling 100%? You're feeling good?
Oh, I feel good.
Once this news came out, a lot of people said, oh, how can Mirko Cro Cop fight because of the USADA thing, even though it happened in 2015 and it was a 2-year suspension, and you have fought since then, but for some reason, I think because it's Bellator, people are getting all up in arms about it. Is there anything that you want to say about some of the critics who say that maybe you shouldn't be fighting on this card?
Why not? Why shouldn't I fight on this card? I was suspended for 2 years. For 2 years for nothing. For a negative test result. For 2 years. And so many fighters were forced to take steroids and avoid all kinds of things. And they get rid of the suspension of 6 months or 1 year. They gave me 2 years for nothing. You know why? Because I was the first one. USADA, they were just waiting for one big name to run their program. But they got the wrong person,
Winning by unanimous decision and avenging a past loss. It marked his 10th straight MMA win.
Mr. Nelson and Cro Cop fought last night. Dude, Cro Cop looked good. God, didn't he? What happened? I don't know. He was
But it would be his last. Just weeks later, Cro Cop suffered a minor stroke and was hospitalized. Though he recovered well, doctors warned him never to take another blow to the head.
Guys, if this is good news or bad news, Cro Cop has retired from the sport. He said he had had a stroke, and his doctor told him, no more fighting. Whatever's happening, whatever shots in your tip, we're all done with this. And Cro Cop said, great, I'm out, and I'm lucky, and I appreciate the info, and I'm going to inform the sport and everybody now.
The 44-year-old announced his retirement. He walked away with a final MMA record of 38 wins, 11 losses, and 2 draws.
Cro Cop's
having
my
secured
hero.
championships across 3 major promotions and cemented
You
his
crazy?
legacy as one of the
Yes.
sport's most decorated
We are
heavyweight
crazy.
legends.
That his career, his presence, his style. I mean, that guy has a special place in this sport that dates back, oh my God, 90s?
Mirko Cro Cop Filipović's fighting journey reads like an action saga, from a national hero to a global icon, and from devastating highs to crushing lows. Mirko Cro Cop's journey was as punishing as his legendary left kick.
He shattered my nose in 16 places, reconstructive nose surgery, 16 stitches in my eye, 14 stitches in my lip. I'm throwing up. I'm in so much pain after the fight. I will never forget it.
He walked through war zones and arenas with the same cold focus, fighting not just opponents, but time, injury, and legacy. He is widely regarded as one of the greatest heavyweight strikers in both MMA and kickboxing history.
And I'm in so much pain. I look at Cro Cop and I go, dang, what are we doing, man? And he looks at me with his broken English. He goes, this is life. Is it though? I looked at him like, is it? Mirko, is it, man? And for him it is. Like, this is everything, man. To me it was not. To me it was not. He's an absolute legend, man. I have no business being the same, I'll be honest with you.
In the end, Cro Cop didn't just survive the fight game, he left his mark on it forever. Since retiring in 2019, Mirko has largely stepped out of the limelight to enjoy a well-earned rest. Back home in Zagreb, he leads a quieter life focused on family and personal health. Cro Cop still maintains a disciplined lifestyle. Unsurprisingly, he hasn't quit training altogether. He converted part of his home into a private gym and works out almost daily to stay fit, though strictly for recreation now. Even so, younger Croatian fighters do seek out the veteran for advice. In essence, he remains a guardian of Croatian combat sports, passing on wisdom but enjoying his free time away from the pressures of competition.
If you look at Mirko Cro Cop's highlight reel, it is a highlight reel unlike any other highlight reel out there.
His legacy endures every time a heavyweight throws a left high kick or a new prospect
Facts.
from Croatia steps into the ring dreaming to be the next
Okay.
Cro Cop.
I'm gonna do sit-ups because I'm feeling like a fat kid.
Here to help you save hundreds by customizing your car insurance with Liberty.
In October, every player wants to turn his story into history.
I would put BJ against any 155 pound that ever been.
BJ is too tough for his own good.
Whose job is it to tell him? Family and friends?
No one's job.
We can't let the fighter decide. This man should not be fighting. And this man should not be in a cage.
You have to have some level of respect to the commitment and the determination for BJ Penn to dismantle his legacy in such a rapid way.
BJ Penn's UFC career is over.
There are some people out there who
No, I don't want no
different fights.
I don't want no
Based
licky
on
kisses.
you know, patient
No.
life.
But after what I
No,
saw,
she just
he needs
give
to
me
focus on his
kisses.
personal life.
No, she just give me kisses.
That's it.
Time to wrap.
Penn wasn't just a fighter, he was a trailblazer. The only man to ever compete in 6 different weight classes. At a time when lighter weight classes were often overlooked, he became the first man in UFC history after Randy Couture to capture gold in 2 different weight classes, finding his success at lightweight and welterweight. This feat alone cements his place among the all-time greats. But while the peaks of his career are legendary, his decline tells a very different story. From the highs of being a world champion to the lows of a record-breaking losing streak, Penn's journey encapsulates both the glory and the perils of professional fighting. BJ Penn's journey to MMA greatness begins in the lush islands of Hawaii, where his story of raw talent and relentless ambition took root.
I don't know where I became a fighter. I don't know how it happened, but I remember I started fighting all the guys about my size around town. And I started getting more gutsy and fighting with more people. But I remember talking to a girl one day, we were just hanging out, and I was like, oh, so-and-so, he's the toughest of all the little guys. And she's like, no way, you're the toughest of all the little guys. And I'm like, really, me?
Born and raised in Hilo, Penn grew up in a culture deeply connected to fighting spirit and pride.
As kids, we knew nothing about working out, how to do it right, so we'd probably work out once a month. We'd lift weights, we had a little weight room downstairs, and then we'd run to the end of the road and run back. And we would think that was the best training we could ever do.
A culture that would define his approach to the sport.
So who would have ever thought that when he started buying those wrestling magazines at the age of 4 and really had those role models like Hulk Hogan and Rocky Balboa, that would lead him to being such, I believe, one of the best fighters in the world.
Unlike most people, Penn didn't end up tapping into the world of martial arts until his teenage years.
I didn't know what I was going to do in my life, you know. I would see one of my older brothers, I'd drink beer at the beach every day, and I'm thankful and happy that his name is Tom Callis. He introduced me to jiu-jitsu. He kept asking my father, hey, could you tell your boy come down? And then my dad's like, BJ, just go once. He keeps asking me, and if you go, I'll tell him you don't like it. So I went down, I got choked out, and I got arm locked in, and I said, with this, I could be the man in Hilo. I could, you know.
However, once he put on his gi, his natural gifts would flourish. In just 3 years, Penn earned his black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under the guidance of Andre Pederneiras.
People ask me, they say, how did you get a black belt in 3 years? Was it desire? Was it dedication? Was it drive? I always look at them and say, no, it was fun.
To grasp the significance of this feat, consider that the average practitioner spends over a decade working toward a black belt, and even achieving it in under 10 years is considered extraordinary. Penn didn't just stop at earning his black belt. In 2000, he etched his name into the sport's history books by becoming the first non-Brazilian to win the World Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Championship in the black belt division.
For the people that don't know, BJ Penn is the first American to win the black belt world championships in Brazil, the Mundials. In 2000, correct?
He won the Mundials 3 years in. For people that don't understand how crazy that is, first of all, it's crazy to be able to get your black belt in 3 years. Then to win the Mundials as a black belt after 3 years of training, there's only one guy that ever did that. That's BJ Penn. That was wild.
Penn shattered barriers and solidified his place as a true prodigy. This remarkable achievement catapulted him into the spotlight and would ping him on mainstream radars, marking the birth of the legend known as the Prodigy. But BJ Penn wasn't content with mastering one discipline. The fire to compete against the best led him to transition into mixed martial arts.
Javier Mendez was in San Jose, so I remember going there one day, and me and him just clicked right away. But he was like, hey, you want me to punch the mitts? I'm like, okay. I started hitting the mitts, and he goes, you can hit hard. You could be a champion. They were with me my first 4 or 5 fights, but that's kind of what got me in.
In 2001, he signed with the UFC, making an explosive debut that showcased his raw potential, putting down Joey Gilbert in just the first round. Fans were immediately captivated by his aggressive, no-nonsense style, a blend of precision striking and his world-class grappling skills. A significant factor in shaping early dominance was his training at Nova União, a camp renowned for producing versatile and aggressive fighters. His ability to seamlessly mix jiu-jitsu with striking was rare for the time, and it would quickly turn him into one of the most exciting prospects in the UFC. In his debut year as a professional fighter, Penn delivered 2 more stunning first-round knockouts against elite opponents Din Thomas and Cael Uno. At the time, both Thomas and Uno were widely regarded as 2 of the best lightweights in the sport.
You burst on the scene, then they threw Dean Thomas at you.
That's right.
So, so BJ knees him, knocks him out, blows a kiss to the fucking cameras. Unbelievable.
Dean was an animal. Right before I got Dean with the knee, like I fought all kinds of people just in Hawaii. Like I never really fought like a black guy before. He was so strong. He was having his feet.
And Penn's dominant performances against them left no doubt about his potential.
The next fight, I believe, is Cael Uno. He ran across the cage and he steamrolled him.
By the time he stepped into the octagon for just his 4th fight, Penn had already earned a title shot, with many proclaiming him the top 155-pound fighter in the world.
You added your own flavor to a lot of shit, and one of the things that you did early on that captured a lot of people was your dexterity of your legs. because you have crazy flexible legs. And when you would trap guys in your legs, you could see that to them, like, this is a new experience.
I never knew about that until I did jiu-jitsu, you know. I never knew I was flexible.
Watch this. This is insane. He just throws his leg behind his head. That's crazy. People don't understand how hard that is to do.
He would challenge for the title against champion Jens Pulver in UFC 35, and with many firmly believing it to be the crowning of BJ Penn, he would come short of Pulver's experience and skill, losing by majority decision. The contest would cruelly remind fans that this was only Penn's fourth pro MMA fight. Although having tasted defeat for the first time, Penn was still young, and there was little challenge or doubt that he would jump back up very soon. 2 wins over Matt Serra and Paul Creighton would take him more than just 2 steps up the ladder, and he found himself back in the title picture, taking on Cael Uno in a rematch for the vacant lightweight championship. What followed was a tightly contested 5-rounder that ended in a draw, leaving the lightweight division without a champion, and both the fighters and fans greatly disappointed. Following the draw with Uno, Penn's conquest took him outside the UFC and into the global MMA scene for a taste.
Your brother was mostly running the fight organization. You watched Rumble in the Rock.
Yeah, he was the guy behind it with all the black and white and the numbers and everything. But
no, that was amazing promotion.
It was so
I was fighting, had a few fights there.
Yeah.
Tournament.
You remember MMA in Hawaii? You remember how big MMA got?
Rumble on the Rock, son.
Yeah.
I remember you put on your own promotion. That was fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
The Rumble on the Rock was the shit, dude.
It was.
You had some fucking great fights.
We did. We had Tank Captain, we had everybody in there.
At Rumble on the Rock 4, he faced the highly regarded Takanori Gomi, a fighter many considered one of the top lightweights in the world. In a highly anticipated clash, Penn delivered a masterful performance, submitting Gomi with a rear naked choke in the 3rd round to become the Rumble on the Rock 155-pound champion. The victory by submission was a sheer reminder of Penn's submission and grappling game that some may have forgotten about.
You know what happened? Elite XP came in, bought everybody up, and then they went down and they crashed.
It just people saw money in it.
A guy shows up and he says, "Hey BJ, I'm here from the state, we're here to regulate you guys." And I'm thinking, after we got our faces smashed in for the last 20 years, now you show up, now it looks like there's a little money here. And then they just tanked the whole thing. Ronald Reagan's best line, me and Lorenzo talked about it, the 9 most terrifying words in the English language. I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
But it was when BJ Penn returned at UFC 46 in 2004 for another title shot that he would forever etch his name into MMA history. As an underdog, he faced the seemingly unstoppable Matt Hughes for the welterweight title. Against all odds, Penn shocked the world, submitting Hughes in the 1st round with a rear naked choke. The win not only earned him the welterweight belt, but solidified his reputation as a fighter who could overcome even the toughest challenges, coming off 2 previous failed title shots. Penn's career then took an unconventional turn as he stepped away from the UFC to compete in other promotions, thus being stripped of the title.
You left the UFC for a short time period. Was there a falling out with Dana or?
Yeah.
It was a money dispute.
Yeah, it was a money. So we ended up in Japan. Japan was paying good money. Couldn't believe the money they were paying.
Rather than wanting to cherry pick his challengers and sit back, he sought out new challenges, facing elite fighters across the globe. The truth is, Penn just wanted to fight, and in 2004 he joined K1's MMA promotion and said to hell with the conventional script. His debut would see him submit Dwayne Ludwig in the 1st round. Instead of staying within his natural lightweight division, the 5'9" fighter not only remained at welterweight, but also moved up to middleweight to take on Rodrigo Gracie, pushing him to a decision win. The challenge of size didn't stop there. In his 12th professional fight, Penn pushed the limits of competition by stepping into an open-weight bout against Lyoto Machida, who would later become the UFC light heavyweight champion. Despite giving up significant size and weight, Penn embraced the challenge, ultimately losing the 3-round contest in Japan.
BJ, when you were on top, you were one of the baddest motherfuckers on earth. You really were. You were a guy who went all the way up to heavyweight to fight Lyoto Machida. You did some wild shit, dude. I mean, you were strangling a lot of fucking people, man. You were a scary motherfucker, dude. You were a scary motherfucker. You were tuned in.
It has nothing to do with who's the best. It's who wants it the most. That's what it is.
For Penn, the numbers on a scale or a record sheet were meaningless. He fought simply for the love of the sport. That fearless mentality and willingness to face anyone, anywhere, endeared him to fans worldwide.
Nothing else mattered to me in my life at that time than being the toughest and most skilled martial artist on the planet.
After an adventurous 4-fight stint with K1, BJ Penn would return to the UFC to mark the beginning of one of the most celebrated chapters of his career. Penn made his highly anticipated return at UFC 58 in 2006, where he faced rising star Georges St. Pierre. At the time, St. Pierre was already gaining attention as one of the most promising talents in MMA, but had yet to claim UFC gold. The matchup pitted Penn's legendary skills and grit against the younger fighter's athleticism and evolving game. Penn would crack GSP well, but over 15 minutes, a strategic approach from St. Pierre allowed him to edge out a split decision victory, handing Penn a close but frustrating loss. Despite the loss, Penn found himself thrust back in the welterweight title picture.
Yo, Metagel, Elf.
Matt Hughes in a highly anticipated
Maybe Mega Man tonight. I'm just doing some training first.
Hughes effectively neutralized Penn's defense, limiting him to just 17 significant strikes. In the third round, Hughes became the first fighter to finish Penn, earning a decisive TKO victory and solidifying his.
I suppose we could Mega Man tonight.
Back losses, Penn entered uncharted territory, the first losing streak of his career. This slump sparked questions about his dedication and whether his motivation to achieve championship glory still burned as intensely as before. However, Penn quickly turned the page. Just months after his loss to Hughes, he was announced as a coach for the Ultimate Fighter Season 5, pitted against his old rival, Jens Pulver. The pairing not only reignited their rivalry, but also offered Penn an opportunity to refocus his career in the lightweight division, where he had always been a natural fit. When the season culminated, Penn and Pulver faced off in a long-awaited rematch. This time, Penn left no doubt about his superiority, dominating Pulver and securing a second-round submission victory. The win was a defining moment for Penn, marking his triumphant return to the lightweight division and silencing doubts about his commitment to the sport. It also set the stage for one of the most dominant runs in lightweight history. Following his triumphant return to the lightweight division, BJ Penn captured UFC gold in his next bout at UFC 80 in 2008. Penn delivered a masterclass, submitting Joe Stevenson by a rear-naked choke in the second round to become the third UFC 155-pound champ in history.
UFC 80, Stevenson, that bloody fight, he fought blood everywhere.
Is that when he licked the glove?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something that get the guys interested.
My God.
Right there, ladies and gentlemen, it's the greatest lightweight in the history of the sport.
The victory, highlighted by Penn's precision and dominance, cemented his status as one of the sport's all-time greats. Penn's first title defense came against former lightweight champion Sean Shirk at UFC 84 in what was a highly anticipated showdown. Penn's striking was on full display as he used his jab and relentless pressure to pick Shirk apart before finishing the fight with a perfectly timed flying knee and follow-up punches. With this win, Penn further enforced his reign at lightweight and set the stage for a blockbuster rematch with Georges St. Pierre, a super fight which was hyped as one of the biggest fights in UFC history. The rematch took place at UFC 94, carrying historic stakes. With a win, Penn would become the first UFC fighter to simultaneously hold titles in two divisions. However, the fight didn't go as planned for Penn. St. Pierre's size, wrestling, and cardio overwhelmed him, and after 4 rounds of relentless pressure, Penn's corner stopped the fight, giving St. Pierre the TKO victory. Penn managed only 16 significant strikes while being controlled for over 14 minutes, a testament to St. Pierre's dominance. The aftermath of the fight brought controversy, as Penn's team accused St. Pierre of gaining an unfair advantage by using illegal amounts of Vaseline during the bout, sparking the infamous Greasegate scandal.
I still want my fair fight, man. I didn't get my fair fight. I want my fair shot.
Apartments.com helped me find a place I never want to leave. And neither do my friends. Find your place on apartments.com.
The horizon grows as it causes. Moved by doubt. Fast.
Mega Man tonight, Elf Kid.
Just out of reach. Where reality meets dreaming. A provocation.
We're gonna Metal Gel our minds off.
What we fear the most holds our greatest intention. So emboldened we go. Because there's no time for cold feet. In October, every player wants to turn history into history.
The high-quality industrial products you need, plus a million more. Call.
These guys to create an unfair fight.
or, you know, and I was wondering what you guys thought about that. I think Japan tried to discredit me for my will.
While the controversy lingered for a time, Penn chose to move forward and refocus on his lightweight legacy.
About the whole situation, you know, besides all that stuff, that's not what I'm focused on.
Returning to the 155-pound division, Penn went on an extraordinary all-time run, defending his title against Kenny Florian at UFC 101 and Diego Sanchez at UFC 107 to round off 2009. He submitted Florian in the 4th round and utterly dominated Sanchez to a doctor stoppage in the 5th round. These performances set a new standard for the lightweight division, with Penn breaking the record for the most consecutive title defenses at 155 pounds.
You kept getting better and better. Like when I see like Sean Shirk fight and Diego Sanchez fight, I'm like, I put that BJ Penn up against almost anybody who's ever lived. Like, you could see it in those days.
Heading into UFC 112, Penn was riding high. The Greasegate controversy was largely in the rearview mirror, and his dominance over Florian and Sanchez had established him as one of the most feared champions in UFC history. Although losses to St. Pierre prevented him from claiming pound-for-pound supremacy, Penn's complete control over his division suggested a reign that could last for years. All that stood in his way was another challenger, a lesser-known but dangerous fighter. For many, it seemed Penn had finally reached the pinnacle of his career. The prodigy was in full bloom, and the lightweight division belonged to him.
I always tell people, you have to judge a fighter by the heights they reached, not where they fell afterwards or the up-and-coming fights. You got to judge them by the heights that they reached.
BJ Penn's decline began in 2010 with a pair of losses to Frankie Edgar. At UFC 112, Penn entered as the dominant lightweight champion, but Edgar's speed, footwork, and strategy allowed him to claim a unanimous decision victory and take the title from Penn. In their rematch later that year at UFC 118, Edgar solidified his win with another unanimous decision, signaling the very end of Penn's reign at 155 pounds. This marked a pivotal moment in Penn's career, as momentum shifted away from the once dominant champion.
BJ looked like he broke in like the second round of that fight. He broke and was like, what am I doing here?
Obviously, he's a great fighter. I mean, what does he have to do to recover from this? I mean, this is pretty devastating because this was supposed to be his, you know, when he dropped back down, this was supposed to be his weight class.
I agree, man. And you know what? Who knows? We'll see where it goes from here.
Everybody has their moment. And the truth, once you win the belt already, the first second already 50% of the why already drops. And now you gotta go out there and just keep going, and then it's your identity, and then you're like, you lost the belt, oh, where is it? I want to get it back now. And then the highest highs and the lowest low, it's my precious, right? That's my precious.
Yeah. In the years that followed, it all seemed to go downhill. Penn struggled to maintain his form, particularly in attempts to compete at higher weight classes. His return to welterweight brought mixed results, including a hard-fought draw against John Fitch, and decisive losses to younger, more dynamic fighters like Nick Diaz and Rory McDonald. These bouts highlighted the growing gap between Penn and the evolving MMA landscape, where athletes displayed increasingly comprehensive skill sets and physical advantages.
I don't know if BJ is capable of competing at the level that he's competing at right now. When he's losing to these guys, I don't know if he is because it doesn't seem like he's capable of it.
Between 2011 and 2019, Penn would falsely claim retirement several times as he suffered an extended losing streak, setting a record for the most consecutive losses in UFC history with 7 L's. Penn's attempts to rekindle his success with comebacks became increasingly controversial.
I want BJ Penn to retire. BJ is too tough for his own good. BJ might not be knocked out, but the shots that BJ took would have knocked out his own. He's had his head bounced off the canvas like a basketball by Matt Hughes, by George St. Pierre. BJ Penn has left that octagon looking like a fucking alien. He's too tough for his own good. He's taking a lot of damage, and I don't want to see him take any more.
Motivation, definitely, you know, I want to go get that 145-pound belt. You know, that definitely is a huge motivation for me. I believe, you know, with Greg Jackson's help, I can get that done. And I believe that I will be able to walk away the only man with 3 titles. You know, training is hard, you know.
He's just not in love with it anymore.
When you try to put a goal, like, well, if I could be the first guy to get 3 world titles, you know, that would, so you try to put a goal in your head that makes sense, and you keep following it up short, it's just like,
Fans and analysts alike began questioning the wisdom of his continued participation in the sport.
The thrill of BJ when he was in his prime is probably indescribable. That's what makes these stories so great when they're in their prime and you're watching them come up. It's so special. It's also what makes this sport so fucking heartbreaking. He's lost, what, 6 in a row? Yeah. He's not who he used to be.
No, obviously, you know, not.
I don't even know where his head's
I
at.
feel like if I'm Dana, I'm going, hey man, I'm doing you guys a song. You can't fight here anymore.
Whose job is it to tell him? Family and friends?
No one's job.
We can't let the fighter decide.
I don't think he should be competing at the highest level of the sport, but the argument is he's not getting crushed. He's not getting sparked out. He's not getting knocked out.
He's just not as good as he used to be.
No, it's not a good argument. Why do you think he's still at the UFC?
Is he still a draw, maybe? I don't know. It's the most heartbreaking thing in sports, I think.
I agree. After you get like in the late 30s, it's like there's something going on clearly for most people. But for guys that were on the sauce, that's where it got weird because they could keep going.
Yeah, that's where it got weird, and that's where we got confused, and that's why I thought it was a career. I'm over here taking the light force. You know what I mean?
You know, you fought natural at a time where very few people did, and we both know that. It was just a fact. Everybody knew it.
BJ Penn would grace the octagon for the final time in 2019 at UFC 237, where he lost to Clay Guida by unanimous decision.
When you get old, you start getting bruised. And
When did you feel like physically things were different? Like what, around what year?
32, 33. Well, I started looking, like when I started getting bruises, I think. I remember when I started kind of getting bruised up and stuff, and I remember I think I was in Australia, I just fought Fitch. My face was busted up because I couldn't even move in the third round, and he just kind of sat on me and beat me up. My friend, it was Hoyt actually, he goes, hey, come here, and he filled the whole sink with ice so I could get my face inside. And I thought, it's the first time anybody ever did this for me. I'm like getting old. But I always say, for any fighter, it's the miles. It's not the age, it's the miles that you put in your body.
Dana White initially stated that Penn would not fight in the UFC again. However, both Penn and Nick Lentz expressed interest in settling their long-standing feud in a final fight.
I think this caught a lot of people by surprise. They didn't think that BJ would get another fight in the UFC, but here we are. He is getting another fight, and he's fighting Nick the Carney Lentz.
Their rivalry dated back several years, beginning when Lentz, alongside coach Mike Dolce, criticized Penn's training methods and weight cuts. This led to ongoing tensions between the two, with Penn even calling Lentz out publicly in an open letter. By mid-2019, reports surfaced that the UFC was actively planning the fight, with Dana White agreeing to give Penn one last farewell bout against Lentz.
This man should not be fighting, and this man should not be in a cage, whether it's Bellator, UFC, Ryzen, One, should not be fighting. Now, if you feel indebted to him, get him on payroll like you did with Chuck and Big Mouth, something like that.
Why are you choosing to promote another? Because he terrorized me for friggin' stopped texting me for 3 days straight, and now talked me into it, so. I've voiced my concerns. I've known BJ Penn since he was like 19 years old, and BJ walked me through a million reasons why he needs this fight, why he has to have it. And he talked me into it. We're doing this. He's promised me that win, lose, or draw, he will retire after this fight.
And for a fighter, one of the most difficult decisions I would imagine is knowing when to get out.
I had the hardest time. I just had the hardest time walking away from that attention, from the attention of the toughest man in the world attention.
This is irresponsible, and anybody who cares about BJ Penn would step in and stop him from doing this. And as far as this business about one more and one more and one more, and I just need one more, he's been given 7 tries, and it's gone over 5 years. There is no more. This is not the same person, and he should not be in it. I like this matchup because it came with a caveat from Dana White directly to BJ Penn. Win, lose, or draw, this is your last fight.
Unfortunately, BJ Penn's downfall wouldn't just be confined to the octagon. Penn's legacy as a fighter is undeniable, but his life outside the cage has been marred by a series of legal issues and controversies in the late stages of his career. As his MMA career declined and concluded, Penn found himself repeatedly in the headlines for the wrong reasons, facing allegations of domestic violence, bar fights, and DUI-related offenses. In 2019, Penn's longtime partner, Sheila Nwaiwa, filed a restraining order against him, alleging over a decade of verbal and physical abuse. She claimed Penn's erratic and threatening behavior endangered her and their children. While Penn denied the allegations, the situation cast a dark shadow over his legacy and raised concerns about his mental and emotional state. Penn was involved in multiple street fights in Hawaii, with viral footage in August 2019 showing him getting knocked out in a bar brawl.
I'm like, no, I don't want to fight. we're friends, everything's cool, this and that. So he even walked outside, and I'm like, this is silly, I'm gonna go get him, calm him down, come back inside, we'll come enjoy the concert, we got some other friends there. I walk outside to go give the guy a hug, and then he hits me twice, and I'm like, oh no, calm down. And then he hits me again, and finally my adrenaline kicked up because he was hitting me so much. I'm like, oh, go ahead, hit me again. He hit me, and he hit me good, knocked me down, and then when I got back up, he tried it again, and then I just had to defend myself already.
Now back on, you've spoken with the other fighter, Chemo. What's his side of the story?
Completely different than what BJ says. He says that he's friends with BJ, they were hanging out, and he says BJ can't handle his alcohol, and he just drank too much, and then they got into a fight. BJ just being a drunk dude.
Yeah. You look at BJ, so accomplished, talented, likable, handsome, memorable, well-known. I don't know if I've seen anybody try quite this hard, and you have to have some level of respect to the commitment and the determination for BJ Penn to dismantle his legacy in such a rapid way. Just being out at a bar at 40 years old with children is a little bit weird. Why are you out? Who are those guys that you were with? They ain't your friends. I can tell you that much. Those aren't your friends that think it's cool to go out on the town with BJ Penn and get drunk and end up in a fight. But at some point, that's got to stop. And at some point, it also feels like a cry for help.
Another incident weeks earlier showed him taking down and punching another man.
This is a separate incident from June. He also talked about this and kind of the same thing where he was saying, I didn't start this, I was just trying to restrain the guy. He's saying, I got a lot of stuff going on in my personal life, I don't need this drama. I don't understand why he keeps putting themselves in situations.
One's an arrest, another one's a street fight you're on top of, another one's a street fight, and you're getting knocked out by a drunk guy with no training. I mean, is there anything that you could do with more of a resilient dedication to tarnishing your own reputation? And you're getting this from a guy that likes BJ Penn.
As a result, the UFC scrapped the matchup and officially released Penn in September 2019, bringing an end to his UFC career. It was clear the UFC would not welcome him back into the octagon.
There are some people out there who have criticized you for continuing to give him fights.
Yep.
Then you see videos come out of him, in an altercation in Hawaii. What were your thoughts when you saw those videos?
He won't fight again.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. That's a wrap.
BJ Penn's UFC career is over. UFC President Dana White told ESPN he will not offer the 40-year-old another bout in the octagon after video showed Penn fighting on the streets of the Big Island. His friend was upset about something. He was just trying to calm him down, but his friend started hitting him.
I didn't love him continuing to fight anyway, but when you have the relationship that he and I have, and he's getting me on the phone, begging me for another fight, it's hard for me to turn him down. But after what I saw on that video, BJ needs to focus on his personal life and get himself together. Listen, I don't want to sit here on TV and pick BJ Penn apart in his life or whatever. We all know what BJ Penn needs to do. Hopefully BJ Penn knows what BJ Penn needs to do. What I saw in that video was sad, and I love the kid. I hope he gets his life together. If BJ Penn needed me, all he's got to do is pick up the phone and ask.
Former UFC champion BJ Penn has been arrested for DUI.
In January 2021, Penn was arrested on a DUI charge. A year prior to that, he was also investigated for another reckless driving incident where he had lost control of his vehicle. Fortunately, no serious injuries resulted, but these charges were seriously not a good look for him. For fans who had once idolized Penn as an MMA legend, his legal troubles and public altercations were heartbreaking to witness. His repeated run-ins with the law painted a picture of a man struggling to find purpose after his fighting career. The lack of structure that once defined his training and competition seemed to have been replaced by reckless behavior, unchecked aggression, and substance abuse. While some pointed to potential CTE as a possible explanation for his erratic actions, a medical condition that BJ Penn completely labels a hoax, others view Penn's decline as an unfortunate consequence of a fighter who had been surrounded by enablers, never held accountable, and ultimately unable to walk away from the only life he'd ever known. Penn eventually did manage to find some sort of mission and purpose following his post-career troubles. The once-known prodigy set his sights on a different kind of battle, politics.
Are you done? Are you done fighting 100%?
I'm done.
You're done?
I'm done 100%. It was hard for me to get out after being in there for 20 years, and that's your identity.
Yeah.
And then I just got into trying to be a father, try to be around more, and then all this stuff happened, and I find myself in here. But I do think all the blood, all the tears, all the sweat was to prepare me for this.
In 2022, Penn announced his candidacy for governor of Hawaii.
Our system is broken, our government is broken, and I got a vision for a strong economy, great schools, and safe communities. You know, people ask me, they go, would you be running for office if this pandemic didn't happen? This is the straw that broke the camel's back. I've always noticed the problems here with the economy, how anti-business they are.
I know you, and I know you wouldn't do this unless you really felt like there was a need for change. You're not a guy that like wants to be running the government. You're a guy that just doesn't want to be fucked with and pushed around. Have you thought about doing anything else other than this running for governor thing?
I just want to raise my kids, and they're growing so fast. I just want to be around. I'll be around my mom. Now she asked me to move in with her since my dad passed away.
However, his lack of political experience made it difficult for him to gain traction among mainstream voters. Despite his name recognition, Penn struggled in the Republican primary, finishing a distant second to Duke Iona, a former lieutenant governor with far more political experience.
Did you ever run again?
Now, my mom told me not to run because it's just a waste of, you're walking right into crossfire. It won't go from both sides, but...
So it's not worth it?
I mean, how do you win?
BJ Penn's contributions to the sport are undeniable. As a pioneer of the UFC's lighter weight classes, he helped bring legitimacy and visibility to divisions that were once overlooked. His accomplishments inspired countless fighters and laid the groundwork for the thriving lightweight and featherweight divisions we see today.
In the future, people think about BJ Penn, I just want them to think that, you know, here was a guy who gave everything he had for his career, for his life, gave his best shot, and gave whatever he could to any of his friends or people around him. And was as nice as he could be along the way. That'd be the best. One thing for sure, at 55 years old, BJ Penn is going to be sitting in Hilo, just like this.
How much earlier do you think the prodigy should have retired? Where does he rank on your UFC Mount Rushmore?
Hey.
Let us know what you think in the comments below.
Get down.
If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to our channel and turn on those notifications.
A student at Free State High School.
The many things have many people hoping for bigger and better in Kansas City after coming off a huge weekend of events.
Got 2 sold-out nights at Chapel Row at the Liberty Memorial, Oktoberfest at Crown Center, dozens of other public events.
Complaints of insect infestations and poor living conditions.
The surge in copper wire thefts is turning neighborhoods into crime scenes, getting an angry very.
Don't run.
Wait, what?
Thanks to a bed and breakfast on Booking.com, even Cardinals fans are loving Chicago.
No, just scoping out.
Florida is used to tourists, but there are visitors here nobody ever asked for. Hundreds of plants and animals have settled into the Sunshine State, clearly taking advantage of its hospitality. In total, more than 500 non-native species have been brought into Florida, and some of them don't cause much trouble. But many have turned into a threat to people, wildlife, and even the economy. And the local climate only helps the intruders. It makes their adaptation quick and easy. Today, invasive species cost Florida more than $500 million a year and have already taken over 1.7 million acres. The far south of the state has become a refuge for outsiders. There are more of them here than in any other region of the U.S. mainland. The only place worse is Hawaii, but we'll get to that another time. From ants to amphibians, from birds to fish and plants, South Florida has turned into an invasion hotspot for every possible taxonomic group. It's already impossible to exterminate them all. There are simply too many invaders. They're spreading faster than people can destroy them, and new species appear every year. It's an endless, pointless struggle. So, from time to time, someone asks, what if we resorted to biocontrol and released yet another non-native animal into Florida that would deal with all the previous ones? For example, a Komodo dragon? How to provoke a dragon. An unobtrusive reminder to do that thing under the video. The Komodo dragon is the largest lizard on the planet. Adult ones can stretch up to 10 feet and weigh over 308 pounds. More often, they're around 154 pounds, but that's still pretty hefty. All in all, the reptile looks like it was made to be an apex predator. A broad, flat head, a heavy snout, crooked legs, and a massive muscular tail. No wonder on their home islands, monitor lizards sit at the top of the food chain. They eat whatever they come across, from carrion to deer, buffalo, pigs, and even their own kind. And their appetite is insane. In one sitting, a lizard can swallow up to 80% of its own body weight. But the key point is they've been hunting outsiders for hundreds of years. Most of their current diet is made up of animals brought in by people. The lesser islands where the monitors live were never connected to the mainland, and the only large herbivores there were dwarf elephants. Everything else I mentioned, deer, pigs, and other species, showed up together with humans. And the monitor adapted to that, turning into a universal hunter, equally effective in dealing with local and non-local animals. All in all, by every measure, it's the perfect, versatile predator. Voracious, powerful, and second to none. In theory, this is exactly the kind of predator Florida needs. A Komodo dragon could keep virtually any invasive species in check, no exceptions. But the question is, can a creature from distant islands really survive in Florida? Turns out yes, and here it'll feel right at home, maybe even better than at home. On the lesser Sunda Islands in Indonesia, where Komodo dragons live, space is really scarce. It's a chain of small volcanic bits of land, tropics, heat, thick trees, dry season turning into wet, all in all paradise, but a damned cramped one. And in Florida, there's way more room. The food's much more varied, and the conditions are perfect for a whole army of dragons. Florida really takes the crowd when it comes to outsiders, being home to more non-native reptiles and amphibians than anywhere else on the planet. The subtropical weather keeps the state warm and humid all year, making it a perfect spot for animals usually found only in isolated tropical forests or far-off islands. In short, the conditions seem almost tailor-made for Komodo dragons. Hunting won't be a problem for them either. These predators rely on patience and stealth. They lie in wait for hours in the bushes or tall grass, then strike at their prey with powerful paws and sharp claws. Their teeth come next, serrated, shark-like. South Florida, with its thickets and wide grassy fields, is perfect for ambushes. So there we have it. If Komodo dragons were brought to Florida, they'd survive. They wouldn't freeze or die from lack of shelter. On the contrary, they'd feel right at home. Florida might actually be the chance for monitor lizards to avoid extinction. The thing is, Komodo dragons once roamed a huge range, from the Indonesian islands all the way to Australia. But times have changed. Since the 1970s, the only place on Earth where you can find them is Komodo National Park. At first, their situation seemed relatively safe, even though from 1996 to 2021, the International Union for Conservation of Nature listed monitor lizards as vulnerable. Yes, there were fewer than 1,400 adults left, but the population was considered stable, and hunting and other threats barely affected them. Everything changed in 2021. That year, the IUCN moved Komodo dragons to the endangered species list. The reason wasn't
me get some
poacher or
water.
disease, it's the climate. Models showed that by 2040, rising sea levels could swallow 30 to 70% of their habitat. You see where I'm going with this? If the monitor lizard's native islands really sink under the ocean in a couple of decades, Florida could become not just a new hunting ground, but also the perfect refuge where these animals could survive in the wild. What could the monitors offer in return? Well, for example, take out the wild hogs. In the spring of 2024, wild hogs practically took over large parts of Florida and haven't shown any signs of backing down since. These animals are descendants of pigs brought over by Spanish colonists back in the 16th century. But over time, they've gone feral and turned into a real nightmare for farmers and the ecosystem. Today, wild hogs are an invasive and highly destructive species spreading across nearly 36 states. Their numbers have been climbing for several decades. In Florida, the situation is especially worrying. It's among the 5 states most affected by the outbreak. Wild hogs are found near roads and on farmland. They feed on corn and acorns, wreck crops, and even pose a direct threat to farmers. The damage they cause is huge. Hogs spread diseases among humans and animals, destroy farmland and forests, and the economic losses of their actions are estimated at around $1.5 million a year. Experts have already concluded the only way to keep their numbers in check is to eliminate every single one. But, as is usually the case with invasive species, it's easier said than done. And here's the real question. Wild hogs are fast, smart, and very hard to catch. So how do the monitor lizards intend to handle them? Actually, it's simple. A monitor lizard doesn't need to chase a hog. As I said, all it needs is a bush, tall grass, or the shade of a tree to lie in wait for its prey. And when that prey comes within striking distance, the monitor attacks. And if it does have to give chase, that's no problem either, because Komodo dragons can reach speeds of up to 12 miles per hour. The thing is, they almost never need to. You see, they have a far scarier weapon in their arsenal, venom. Monitor lizards have venom glands, and their toxins sharply lower blood pressure, cause severe bleeding, prevent blood from clotting, and lead to shock. Sharp teeth and powerful neck muscles tear flesh, leaving gaping wounds, so prey that manages to escape only gains a short reprieve. The venom does its work, and the monitor lizard calmly follows the trail, guided by the scent of the blood. It can track its victim for hours until it collapses. Then it's time to eat. That makes hogs an ideal target for a monitor lizard. Ambush, bite, and then, if needed, slow and relentless pursuit until the animal dies from blood loss. Real data backs this up. At a zoo, a 99-pound monitor lizard was once seen completely swallowing an 88-pound hog. Another lizard of the same size handled a 66-pound hog in 17 minutes. In the wild, there have even been cases of monitor lizards killing hogs in just seconds. So we basically have all the proof we need that the Komodo dragon is the perfect predator for wild hogs in Florida. Who else is on the list of particularly nasty invasive animals? Alright, Burmese pythons. This is yet another trouble for Florida. These snakes aren't native. They're invasive species that have already dealt a crushing blow to the local wildlife. And we're not talking about harmless racers here, but one of the biggest snakes in the world. In Florida, adult pythons usually reach lengths of 6 to 9 feet, but the records are way more impressive. The largest one ever caught in the state stretched over 18 feet. Imagine 6 human steps, and the snake still doesn't end. The problem is that pythons are generalist predators. When scientists examined their stomachs, they found the remains of just about anything. Mammals, birds, reptiles, even rare protected species. Pythons can eat prey weighing up to 100% of their own body weight. With such an appetite, they decimate local populations, completely emptying ecosystems in some regions. Researchers are still assessing the full extent of the damage, but it's already obvious that an adult Burmese python has almost no natural enemies. Humans are the only hunters, and even then not always successful. This is where the Komodo dragon comes into play. On its native islands, it lives side by side with reticulated pythons, the longest snakes in the world, and the third heaviest too. So a Burmese python wouldn't seem like some monstrous creature to a Komodo dragon, something impossible to handle, but more like an ordinary snake. And while I couldn't find examples of Komodo dragons attacking pythons, there's plenty of information about other large monitor lizards. For example, the Australian parentee hunts venomous snakes really well, like mulga snakes. They're actually a regular part of the monitor's diet. And in this video, there's another monitor of a different species, but the snake attacks it just like a python would attack a Komodo dragon, wrapping around its body. And the monitor manages to fight it off. However, it's not all so simple here, because large pythons are still something a monitor lizard should watch out for. A couple of years ago, a video went viral online. A giant Burmese python regurgitated a very big monitor lizard. It was filmed in Thailand. A few conclusions immediately come to mind. On one hand, a python can indeed kill a monitor lizard. That means a Komodo giant will have to be more careful when hunting. On the other hand, the footage didn't show a Komodo monitor, but its smaller relative. Komodo monitors have much better chances. Only the very young lizard should fear meeting a snake. An adult monitor can simply switch to smaller pythons, younger prey, and would always come out on top. The whole story isn't exactly clear. It's not certain that the python actually killed that lizard. Maybe it just picked it up already dead. And then the story looks completely different. By the way, regurgitation works both ways. There are known cases where monitor lizards themselves regurgitated pythons. And that means a monitor lizard is quite capable of killing and eating a snake, even if it's not a Komodo dragon, but a smaller species. Everything sounds like a perfect plan. Hogs make good food, pythons too.
Holding still is like the hardest fucking part of the entire thing.
Florida has no shortage of outsiders, mammals, birds, reptiles, and the monitor lizard can turn them all into prey. Sounds tempting? Don't get too excited yet. Let's first look at the pitfalls. Moreover, Florida already has experience with other monitor lizards, and to put it mildly, it hasn't gone well. We're talking about the Nile monitor. This semi-aquatic lizard doesn't naturally live in Florida, but once it showed up here, it quickly became an invasive species. It's versatile in every possible way. It hunts on land, underground, in trees, in fresh and salt water, and it basically eats anything that moves, or doesn't move.
Stress keeping you up? Introducing Lemon Balm by Energy. This fast-absorbing concentrate works at the cellular level, so you stay calm. Energy, we can save ourselves.
Make every wash count.
And one day, my husband and sister uncovered a secret. What are you telling me?
I'm not gonna let the betrayal dictate the rest of my life.
We cremated you on October 24th.
At Casey's, we're too nice to say no. So when someone asks for light, crispy, thin crust pizza cut party style, we said yes. And then they asked if we could make this commercial party style. We also said yes. Casey's thin crust pizza cut party style. It's not crazy. It's
We chose Capital Federal because of their interest in seeing us succeed. You could feel that they really...
Crabs, crayfish, mussels, snails, slugs, termites, caterpillars, beetles, spiders, grasshoppers, crickets, fish, frogs, toads, lizards, turtles, snakes, baby crocodiles, birds and their eggs, small mammals. In short, the list just goes on forever. The sprawling network of canals in South Florida only made things easier for them. These canals became corridors for spreading out. As a result, the Nile monitor turned into a serious threat to species protected at both the state and federal level. Wading birds, gopher tortoises, and even the American crocodile were all at risk. The situation in Cape Coral looks particularly worrying. It's home to the largest population of burrowing owls in Florida, and at the same time, the largest known population of Nile monitors. Ecologists are also noticing the disappearance of pets and even feral cats in the area. The Nile monitor also competes with local predators. In Africa, they're known to raid crocodile nests, eat eggs, and hunt young crocodiles. Naturally, such behavior could happen in a new location too. Overall, Florida already has one non-native monitor, and it's brought nothing to nature but trouble. But let's just put it in perspective. Nile monitors usually grow from just over 3 feet to more than 6 feet. The largest can get up to 8 feet. Their weight, though, varies a lot. Some studies report 1.8 to 3.3 pounds, others 13 to 33 pounds. That's quite something, but still nowhere near the records. Now look at the Komodo dragon. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, males can reach 10 feet and tip the scales at over 308 pounds. The difference is massive. You can even say one Komodo dragon weighs as much as a whole group of Nile monitors. And this is where it gets really interesting. If a relatively small and gluttonous monitor like the Nile monitor has already caused so many problems in Florida, just imagine what a Komodo dragon would do. But even if we set aside the simple logic of the bigger the animal, the bigger the trouble, there's another scenario. 2 monitors, 2 different sizes. The Nile monitor has already taken the niche of a small predator that eats pretty much anything, but big prey is out of its reach. And this is exactly where the Komodo dragon comes in. It's big, powerful, and capable of hunting mammals that are completely out of the Nile monitor's league. In the end, it's not about swapping one species for another, but about creating a partnership. 2 ravenous predators will exist side by side. One eating eggs, birds, and small critters, the other going after everything else, from boars to deer. For the monitor lizards, it'll be an all-you-can-eat buffet. But for the local fauna, a catastrophe. Speaking of local fauna, what's the situation with the predators there? The Komodo dragon will have to share space with them somehow. South Florida is the only place where the American crocodile and the Mississippi alligator live side by side. These are local predators, and obviously they don't need any biological control. On the islands, Komodo monitors don't have any rivals like that. Alligators never made it here, and saltwater crocodiles, which used to be found in coastal areas and mangrove swamps, have long disappeared. So for the monitor, this is a new and unfamiliar enemy. At first, it might not even know how to deal with crocodiles. We also don't have a single example in the wild where these species have met each other. All we can do is make guesses, and these guesses don't favor the monitor. Alligators and crocodiles are huge, fierce, some of the deadliest reptiles in the world. Male Mississippi alligators reach 10 to 16 feet in length and weigh hundreds of pounds. Their dark, thick scales protect them well from attacks. On land, they may seem but in the water, they turn into fearsome swimmers with tails that act like a screw and also like a club. They grab their prey suddenly and perform a death roll, tearing chunks of flesh.